God. All right, Abdul, we'll start with you. Can you...
I'm a freshman and a computer engineering major.
You're a freshman from Kuwait.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi everyone, my name is Haoyu Wang. I'm accounting major, so junior, and I'm from China, but I've been living in Singapore for the past over a decade. Yeah.
All right.
Hi, my name is Vivek. I'm a second year major right now studying aerospace engineering. I was born in India, but I've lived almost all of my life in Kuwait. I was born in India and I spent most of my life living in Kuwait, about 18 years.
Okay, cool. All right.
Hi, my name is Julie. I'm a sophomore studying biomedical engineering. Originally from Egypt, but I've lived almost all my life in Dubai.
In Dubai. And we just pulled you up today.
They just told me, come
Just
here.
said, hey, you're going to volunteer today.
You're gonna volunteer.
Awesome. Man. Hey, so here's what I want to do. I want to have the inverse of the class that we had on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, we talked about homogeneous cultures, okay? Were you all here on Tuesday? You weren't here? Okay, well, we talked about homogeneous cultures. We talked about cultures that have very few people who are born, or societies, countries, right? Where very few people are born outside of that country. And in particular, two of the volunteers were from Korea and one was from China. And in Korea and China, almost everybody, meaning like 96.5% to 97%, have Chinese or Korean ancestry. Now, that means something different in China because there are different ancestry groups. So most people you meet in China are Han Chinese from that particular culture or ethnic group. But most people, when you see Koreans, so we talked about this, they're Koreans. You kind of have a real sense of who they are. But you all have experiences that are very different from that. So we are, can we go to the first slide? So for example, proportion of foreign-born residents. And, UAE, so this is UAE. Where are you a citizen? Where are you a citizen, actually?
I live
In UAE?
Dubai,
Yeah, okay, I
UAE.
got you.
Yeah.
All right. So you were born in Egypt, but you
I
have
was born in
citizenship.
Egypt. I don't have the citizen, I just live there, but I don't have, they don't live there.
Yeah. Hold the mic really close. Yeah. Okay. So do you consider yourself Emirati?
No.
Yeah, you don't?
No, I don't.
What do you call yourself?
Egyptian.
Egyptian.
Yeah.
Okay, got you.
When someone asks me, I tell them I'm Egyptian.
Okay, got you.
When they start talking about Egypt, I go I don't live there. I live in Dubai.
Okay, so here. So this is the very beginning of something, right? So look at UAE. Has the highest, this is the country, the United Arab Emirates. This is the country with the largest number of foreigners living in that country as residents. So kind of not exactly even expats always, right? But, okay, so think about that. You remember Korea Cuba was less than 1%, and the Emirates is almost 90%. And then we have Kuwait. So, Vivek, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, from my experience living in Kuwait, there's a lot of Indian people especially. From numbers I've heard, just the amount of Indian expats you have living in Kuwait outnumber even the Kuwaiti population.
Here, go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, there are the numbers actually. So non-nationals in Kuwait is 70% of the population. In Indians, it's about 33%, I think. So it's about the same number as Kuwaitis. Yeah. When you say Kuwaitis, well, hang on. I'm gonna come back to you for a second. So the mere fact that you were, here in the United States, look, hang on. You're born in Egypt. Both your parents are Egyptian? Both have Egyptian passports.
Yes, and I have an Egyptian passport.
You have an Egyptian
Yes.
passport. And we think about how, if you came to the United States 18 years ago and you lived 18 years of your life
I would have
here,
had the...
you would have residency of some
Yes.
sort. You would have an American passport.
Yes.
Okay? But that's not easy to do
No,
with the
it's
Emirates.
not easy. It's very rare there. Like they don't just give their citizenship or their passport away.
But at the very least, you would call yourself, the fact that you call yourself Egyptian, you lived basically your entire life in Dubai.
Yeah.
Like you're not Emirati Egyptian or Egyptian Emirati, you're just
No,
Egyptian.
I'm just Egyptian.
Which says something about the Emirates, right? So were you
like, I
born?
don't think he calls himself.
No, I don't. I was
Kuwaiti.
born in India. Yeah, I spent like the first year of my life growing up in India with my grandparents.
Okay.
My dad worked in Kuwait mostly, and so after that first year, we moved all to Kuwait.
You all moved to Kuwait, and you consider yourself what? If I ask you what's your nationality?
I'd consider myself Indian. Yeah.
Indian. So the two of you are very similar, right?
Actually, like all my friends back home, like in Dubai, not a single person would like, if they're not originally Emirati, they wouldn't call themselves Emirati, like Lebanese, Palestinian, Jordanian. They won't add the Emirati part to it.
Mm-hmm. Which is, can you go back a slide? So just look at Kuwait. That's 28%, 27% basically of the population is Kuwaiti, would be considered native or national, Kuwaiti national, right? Yeah. I know, so that's my experience in Kuwait, right? I mean, I've spent a fair amount of time in the Gulf countries, Kuwait, Qatar, the Emirates, and so on, right? So, yeah, this is just so many international folks. Okay, so go forward one, Kuwait. I want to just play, I want to go to okay, just blacken the screen for a second, okay? Or actually, go back one. Don't blacken it. Just go back one to that number of the percentages. Yeah, okay. Hey, so here's my question. Let's just start here. And let's start with you. What's it like living in a place, in a nation that is so heterogeneous? Like the culture is just it's the opposite of homogenous. What's that like?
I feel that if you live in a place where there's so many of different cultures, eventually after years the culture tend to mix with each other, and that's what happened to Singapore. And essentially, there isn't like a Indian culture, Chinese. There are like certain areas that people races still keep their own culture, but what happened eventually was that people created a culture called Singaporean culture. Mm-hmm. And in Singapore, people speak English a lot different from what we do. We call it Singlish. And the language...
Wait, what do you call it?
Singlish. Singapore, Singlish, yeah.
Okay, it's like the unique Singaporean version of English, which sounds very British, though, right? Because it was a British colony.
Like Singlish. And we notice in the Singlish language, there's a mixture of different languages, be it Chinese Mandarin, or Chinese dialects, or Malay, the Malay language, or Hindi, Tamil, just all mixed in it. And there's a dish in Singapore actually called rojak. Rojak is a mixture. It's like a salad, like mixture of different like pineapples, potatoes, etc. And we call ourselves rojak people because we are essentially just a mixture of everything.
Wait, how do you pronounce that, or how do you spell it?
Rojak, I think. Rojak.
Rojak. Okay. So it's you. So wait, what do you? So you call? Where were you born?
China.
You're born in China, and then you moved to Singapore
when I was 8.
When you were 8.
Yeah.
And if someone says, "Hey, where are you from?" You say Singapore.
I'll say China. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I say, "Hey, what's your culture?" What's your culture?
I would still say China because most of my norms, my identity, my like morals and values, they're more still Chinese. Mm-hmm. But it's an interesting comparison to my little brother, who is 7 years younger than me. So I came to Singapore when I was 8. So he was 1 when he moved to Singapore. So his culture more conformed to Singaporean culture than Chinese culture.
And that for you, but you just said Singaporean culture is this incredible mix, right?
Yeah.
So you mean what does that mean in actuality in terms of him, like his thinking and behavior? If he's more adapted to Singaporean culture than Chinese culture, what does that mean for him?
It means he is, for example, he is a lot more open. He's more extroverted because the Chinese culture is one of the most introverted cultures among the different cultures that mixes in Singapore. So I am more introverted. He is more extroverted because they have so many different factors that would change his thinking, the way how he thinks.
Hey, okay. Yo, man, that's wild. Okay,
And we were brought up in the same household.
Dude, that's wild. Okay, hang on. Can you go forward a slide and go forward? Hang on, go back. I just want to just show you this with Kuwait, right? So, like, you really see all the nationalities in Kuwait. This is a melting pot of a space, right? Go forward. I just want to show you Singapore, just in case you don't know where Singapore is. So, right on the southern tip of Malaysia, right? It was a British colony. And so, you're right in a sense between Malaysia, Indonesia, China, like all these spaces coming together. Go to one more slide. I want to show you this so people can have a sense of this. So here, this is the language breakdown that I just pulled off. So English, Mandarin. So a quick question for you. I want to just stay with you for a second. Like, how much are... So go back to your brother. What does your brother speak? English and
Chinese
Mandarin?
and English, Mandarin and
Yeah?
English.
Okay.
But he's definitely more proficient in English than Mandarin than me the otherwise.
So for you, it's Mandarin more
More
than
proficient, yeah.
Yeah, but dude, I mean, how's his English? Is it okay? It's acceptable. Okay. So, all right, go. Abdul, okay, so tell it what's it like living in Kuwait in this space with so many people from around the world? If you go back to the Kuwait slide,
So from my experience, I met a lot of people from different countries, mostly Egyptians or Jordanians or Syrians. But in the school that I went to, there weren't many. There were mostly Kuwaitis.
So you are a Kuwaiti national, right?
Yes, I am.
Hold the mic a little closer.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
And I saw them in like extracurricular activities. So I would go to a basketball club. I would see a lot of them there. I would go to maybe an after-school activity. I would see a lot of them there. But in my school itself, there weren't many.
Okay, so when Vivek says, "Hey, I was born in India, but I spent my whole life in Kuwait." Do you see him as Kuwaiti or do you see him as Indian? Like, how do you see him?
I mostly see him as Indian because I associate a person's nationality with his ethnicity and with what passport he holds.
Okay, so here in the United States, like we wouldn't do that, right? Like we do and we don't, right? It's an odd thing, but dude, if you spend your whole life here, and do you speak Arabic?
I know words and phrases. Like we had Arabic class every year. I'd forget it every summer, but I know enough to just recognize a few words.
So do you speak Arabic? Are you well, yeah, because
Yes,
you're Egyptian.
I'm originally
But
Egyptian.
you speak Egyptian Arabic, right? So like,
Yeah, there's different dialects. I speak
Yeah.
the Egyptian one.
But have you kind of picked up the Emirati? Dialect?
I understand it, not fully, but of course I understand it and I know what it's saying and different dialects because I know the Jordanian, Syrian, Lebanese, all those dialects.
But
I speak the Egyptian one.
Yeah, but so if it's for people who don't know, I mean, everyone says that Egyptians speak like a really unique version of Arabic,
Arabic, yeah.
Arabic, yeah.
It's like unique-ish. It's
Yeah,
weird.
like people know who the Egyptians are when they encounter
You could,
the
yeah,
Egyptians.
anyone who talks in Egyptian dialect, you can tell if he's Egyptian or not, or she's Egyptian or not.
Okay, so Vivek. So Abdul is saying okay, you have not spent a lot of time around people who are not Kuwaiti nationals? I mean, you did kind of engage, but not. Do you have any close friends, people who are not Kuwaiti nationals?
I have some friends, but they're not close to me. I have a couple of friends who are Egyptian and a friend who's Lebanese.
So you're 30 Kuwaitis. You are 30% of the population of Kuwait. 30%, man. So just think about this in a place like the United States. Dude, think about Korea, okay? Where you're 97% of the population. This guy is, imagine 30%. Imagine you're Koreans and you're living in the peninsula of Korea. Remember, think about last class. And yet, the vast majority of people that you interact with, 7 out of 10 people you engage with day after day, are not native indigenous Koreans. They're from outside of Korea. And so this is your experience, right? So
I think a part of that is due to the culture back home. So even if you can see over here, when a lot of Kuwaitis or a lot of Arabs come out to study abroad, they usually hang out with people who are Arab or from the same country.
yeah.
And I've seen it here with a lot of Kuwaitis who graduate and they only hang out with Kuwaitis.
So why is that? What would you say? What do you think? What do you think is behind that?
I think because of the culture and the traditions that we were brought upon, it's kind of hard to come out here and to get to know people and to kind of understand their traditions and cultures. It's kind of hard for people who are in another country for 18 years and in a Middle Eastern country who's not westernized a lot. So when you come out here to the US, it's kind of difficult to get to know other people who don't share those values, those morals, those traditions.
So, Vivek, who do you hang out with here at Penn State?
I've got a whole bunch of friends. They're sitting right here.
From where are they from? Where are they from?
My roommate's American. I hang out with him very often. I've also got 2 friends I graduated high school with, both from Kuwait, a Kuwaiti guy and also an Egyptian dude.
Kuwaiti and Egyptian guy.
Yeah.
Right? And how about because there's so many Indians, from, like, you're really connected to Indian culture.
That's like a 50-50. I would say I'm connected just through my parents.
Yeah.
So like I know Indian culture that way, but like every summer when I go back to visit my grandparents, like usually the first things they tell me is that your Malayalam, which is the language I speak, has gotten so much worse. Like they can barely understand me, and that happens every year.
So you've then become this person. So you got thrust out of your culture. You go to Kuwait. The Kuwaitis, you're not really part of Kuwaiti culture because it's really clear that you're not Kuwaiti, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not Emirati. Like they let it be. No, I mean, it's not like they let it be. You're just not, right? You're just not.
It's not they let it be known. It's just it's just not. Like
You just
they're not.
aren't.
Like I would never ever consider myself Emirati. No.
But do the two of you ever really want to be part of like Kuwaiti or Emirati culture? Like, are you trying to really? Have you ever really tried to do people like you, right? These foreign nationals, right? The foreigners, non-nationals, I get. Do you try to integrate? Are you like, because here in the United States, hang on, do you try to integrate?
Me personally, no, but I do know a lot of people that you could tell because Emiratis dress in like a different way than it's just like their national way of like dressing and all that. I have a couple of friends that I know that are not Emiratis, but they do try to dress like that and like the kandora and the abaya. I'm guessing that's their way of integrating or trying to be. So there are obviously some people that try to be, but not everyone, no.
And so do you feel, is one of the things, or how does that impact your sense of self being really multicultural, like multinational, the two of you, right? You're living in this land where it's really hard to be part of it, And by the way, when I was in my time in Kuwait, I mean, I remember just the Indian community in Kuwait, but in Dubai, every time I've gone to Dubai, I stayed in the area of the Gold Souk, which is like the Indian. That's a part of the.
It's old Dubai.
Yeah.
Old part of Dubai. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's always that was always really fascinating to me, you know? Like, I didn't want to go stay at some hotel at like the Burj Khalifa or something. Like, to be right where the action was, you know? So I'm aware of the kind of the communities of people living, trying to like live inside and yet outside of these communities, right?
I feel like maybe that's why, like, as I said, people do try to integrate themselves and be like them, but not a lot, like from what I see, because we're all mostly also surrounded by people that aren't Emiratis. Like my friend group back in Dubai, Lebanese, Palestinian, Jordanian, Egyptian. So, like, that's what I'm, you know, like, not everyone is trying to change because almost everyone is not from there.
It's not from there,
yeah,
right?
so no one's really like forced or trying to fit in, because it's just like everyone's fitting in because it's a very multinational place.
Yeah, like why would you?
Like you're different, I'm different. You're different, everyone's different.
Yeah. Why would you try to be? Yeah, like you know, like, have you been to Dubai, bro? Have you?
Yeah, I've been a couple times.
I mean, you know, right? You go. Have you've been to Dubai? I assume.
Yeah, I've been.
Yeah. So you know when you go to this city, it's like being in New York City. I mean, it's like being in Queens. Queens, New York. Is anybody from Queens here, by the way? You're from Queens? Dude, the most multicultural geographic region on the face of the earth is Queens, New York. Like there's not a space anywhere in the world in which there is more representation by people from different parts of the world than Queens, New York, right? I mean, but Dubai kind of comes in second, you know. Question for you, right? What's difficult about living in a place like Singapore that's just so connected, so diverse, yeah?
I guess you gotta be really careful about what you say, what you do, what you post on the internet, because in Singapore it's against the law to be to post or to say racist remarks. So there was this guy who was prosecuted. He was jailed and fined, I think, for passing anti-Christian remarks on the YouTube video. So you gotta be really careful. Like you're around all sorts of different people. They have different cultures. They have different religions. Maybe you don't agree with those, or you don't believe in those yourself. But you got to be really careful about it, respectful.
Okay, so here, hang on. Let's flesh this out a little bit. So here in the U.S., we're currently in the middle of this anti-woke, anti-DEBI, diversity, equity, inclusion, DEIB, right? Belonging. This movement, right, where people are pushing back. Like there are all these rules in the U.S. saying, like, hey, you got to be really open toward other people, and if you're not, you know, you really, you catch holy hell, right? But nobody is going to get arrested by saying something that's anti-Muslim in the United States or whatever, right? But in Singapore, what you're saying is one of the ways of kind of holding everything together, and I watched a video recently about this, right? One of the ways of holding things together is just to demand that people are very tolerant of other people around them.
Yeah, actually, back a couple of decades, there were a lot of racial riots. Like Chinese would fight Malays or fight Indians. There would be a lot of blood spilled. And the government decided that there has to be an end to that. So they put in place very strict laws to control. Like the prime minister, that founder of Singapore, Mr. Lee Kuan Yew, he's always accused especially by the Western world, of being putting his hands too much into people's ordinary citizens' life. But his response to that was that had I not done that, we wouldn't be here.
You mean as a country?
Yeah.
Things would have divided and fallen apart.
Without those laws, as we have seen like a couple of decades ago, if people were to act their natural self, we see riots. We see a lot of killing, blood spilled, injuries. But my theory to that is that sometimes people cannot, they don't deserve the freedom they have to be controlled in some way.
So in a way, what you're saying about that control, which is really interesting, is that like here right now, what do you think about what you see in the United States about all the people hating on other people and like how is that for you?
I guess there's always two sides to everything. You guys in America obviously enjoy the perks of having freedom, but there's a price to pay for that.
What's that price?
And the price is that somebody could just pass racial remarks to you, like you're Chinese. Oh, like I don't know, what's a like racist Chinese remark? I don't know, but yeah, you could just say to that. That people can just say that to your face, and so, I don't like that.
And so you're saying in Singapore, from a young age, you learn, hey, be extremely you just learn to be tolerant. And are you then tolerant, or like, does that mean you embrace, or does it mean you just keep your thoughts to yourself?
I think people naturally, we would be afraid, or we would be keep away from things that are different to us, that look different, that sounds different to us, and it's natural. But you have to be taught that this is you shouldn't judge by a book by its cover.
Okay. So it's like Sesame Street in the United States, right? You got to go back to Sesame Street.
We have like talks and workshops. We have a racial harmony day. Come on.
Yeah.
Every year, racial harmony.
Racial Harmony Day. Is
day,
it just
yeah.
a day? Racial Harmony Day.
Yeah, we would like as elementary school students, we would dress in, even middle school and high school, we would dress in other people's culture's clothes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And people like the kids really enjoy that?
Yeah, the kids enjoy that.
It's not like they don't see it as a stupid snarky
no,
thing.
No.
It's like,
yeah, I dressed as Indian before. Right. Yeah, my friends dress as like Chinese.
Oh, dude, that's awesome, man. Singapore. Hey, how's the racial Vivek, I want to go to you, right? Because you're Indian, working, your family's in Kuwait. How's the racial? Wait, hang on. I could go to Abdul. I should go to him first, actually. How's the racial harmony in Kuwait? Because I'm looking at like all these different groups here. Like, what would you say as a native Kuwaiti?
So, in my opinion, as for racial harmony, there are many situations that expats have experienced racism, and I don't think that really associates with the whole of the Kuwaiti citizens. And most expats are respected. Most expats are given their full dignity and have the right to work and live peacefully in Kuwait.
So for you, from your perspective, as one of the 30%, and it feels harmonious.
Yes.
Do you feel? I mean, I remember when I was in Kuwait, in the Emir.
What year were you there?
I was there in 2014, 15 maybe?
Are you trying to remember which Emir it was?
Yeah, no. I'm just trying to think. I'm trying to think. Every Kuwaiti family got like $15,000. They just got it. Everyone did it. But not the Indians, right? And not the Egyptians and not anybody else. But all the Kuwaiti nationals just got money from the government. It was like a subsidy thing, because there was a lot of inflation and the price of food was high and so on. But Kuwaitis got that and other people didn't get that, right? Is that... And everyone just sort of seemed as though that was normal. It's like, yeah, of course, Kuwaitis get this, right?
It's because I think it's seen as if Kuwait as a country is responsible for its citizens, as for in this instance, but it is still responsible for the expats and for the Indians and all the other foreigners, but not in this type of way.
Yeah. Okay. Vivek. How are race and culture relations for you, from your perspective?
So as we were talking about racial harmony previously, I sort of agree. It's different though because in places like Dubai, you have people who live like close to each other who are all like different races and like different cultures and so forth. For example, the place I live in, Kuwait, a town called Salmiya. It's funny because it's mostly just Indian people. Like I could walk outside, and I don't even need to use English at that point. It's just so full of Indians that sometimes you even forget you're in Kuwait. And so,
Wait, so you
because
speak Hindi?
Malayalam,
Balyang? Okay.
it's from the south of India.
Okay, got
You have a large percentage of the Indian expats who come
Yep,
from there.
yep. Okay, wait, so go ahead.
So you have a lot of people who just live together, and so when you spend most of your days together, there's no like real reason to adapt to the Kuwaiti culture, let's say, because you're really living with Indians most of the time.
So that's what many people say here in the United States, a similar kind of thing to the two of you, right? They would say, yeah, but if you want to integrate, if you want to be part of American culture, whatever that is, right? Because I'm not even certain what that is at this point. I mean, it really depends. I mean, if you're in the Southwest, it's very different than here in central Pennsylvania. But if you want to integrate and be part of it, you really can. And there's a lot of pressure here in the U.S. to encourage immigrants to do that. Like you should. If you don't, like speak English, right? Dress like Americans, right? If you were wearing hijab, if you were hijabi here, it would be like, it's okay to be hijabi, but it's like, why are you wearing hijab? Like be American. And you would feel that kind of pressure in that way in different places, right? But the two of you don't really feel that in your experience.
Not at all. I think, in fact, it's probably the opposite.
That they don't want you to be.
Yeah, where you're sort of like encouraged to stay out of very Kuwaiti culture, as in like it's reserved for them, basically.
Reserved for them, like that payment for food, the $15,000 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Well, it's sort of normal because it happens on like a regular basis. That's not like the first and last example of stuff like that.
Okay, but still, living in Kuwait like you were, and again, looking at all these groups, you still felt like you were living in this really immensely multicultural world.
Yeah, so for example, if I were to go out to like a shopping mall, I could walk past, see any group of like, I could see Kuwaitis, Indians, other expats walking past me. I can see people in U.S. Army uniforms walking past.
Yeah.
It's pretty common to see people from everywhere.
Do you have anything? Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Yeah, I think I have something to add on to, because just now I see people mentioning living together among like basically people of your own race or ancestry. But in Singapore, people 60 or 70% people live in government housing, and the government control the housing by saying that you have to have a certain racial mix in that particular like building.
Oh, no kidding.
You have to have Malays.
So not only
Chinese,
do you have to speak kindly of other people, but you have to have a racial
you have to
mix.
live together. You have to learn to do that. Like a Chinese, like for example, you have to live next to an Indian and a Malay. Like that's just an example. You have to. That's how you can't buy housing. Like you can't have the whole building like. But that's only for government housing. But then again, it's 60-70% people are living in that. I feel that Singapore, in some ways, is a more extreme version of America. The government just strongly encourages you to be Singaporean instead of be Chinese, be Malay, or be Indian. Be Singaporean.
Be Singaporean. Yeah. What does that mean? Like the guy. Here, can you go? Can you put that photo up? Yeah, this guy, Joseph Schooling, right?
He's famous.
Yeah, he's quite famous, right? I mean, he's really. So, do you have any idea who this guy is? He's like the only Singaporean who ever won a gold medal.
Yeah, gold medalist in the Olympics.
I think he did the butterfly or something in Brazil. But this guy, his mom's from Malaysia, but moved to Singapore when she was young. His father is Euro. He has European roots, but was born in Singapore, and speaks 3 or 4 languages, right? Mandarin and
that's
Malay
common.
and so.
Very common.
Yeah. Very common, right? But people still question whether this guy was, some people question whether he was actually Singaporean, but the response by his father, I remember this back in the day, was like, what the hell, what is Singaporean? Like Singapore, there's nothing, nobody, Singaporean is just this incredible, like the salad bowl mix of things, like you said, right? Where's this guy Singaporean? You know, like.
I think it's hard to define what exactly is Singaporean, but it's important, at least for the government, to keep peace in the country. It's important for their citizens, their people, to identify Singapore, regardless what they define Singaporean as.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are bottom lines. Being Singaporean means you have to like be racial harmonic. You have to be nice to other races and etc.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, can I ask, Julie, how do you think things would have been different for you in Dubai, or would be different, or would you want them to be different? If there was like, if the Emirati government did something more similar to what Singapore did, like force people to really integrate and be Emirati, as opposed to saying like, hey, we're going to live in this world where we'll be the Emiratis, the nationals, and all you other people will be over here. But like, how do you think, I don't know, like, how does that sound, what he's talking about in Singapore for you?
I wouldn't like that, because their culture is also the nice part about it is that not everyone can, like, it's special to them. It's like unique to them. Maybe that's why people want to or try to like integrate with them. But how will it be like?
Wait, no, can you say more about that? And I want to, Vivek, I want to hear what you have to say. Like, what do you mean when you say it's unique to them? Because if you've been, you really have to go to the Gulf to experience
it and see
this,
it.
right?
You don't just see it. Yeah.
I mean, maybe we'll talk about Arab culture at some point in the semester, but like, what do you mean it's unique to them? Like, what do you?
Like it's most Arabs are similar in like things they do, but each like country has its own, of course, own culture, and it's typically like the Gulf. The Gulf has a unique culture to them, or like they do different things, or than the Arabs in general, like the Arabs in general. I don't know how to explain it.
So listen.
I mean, I could go more.
Go ahead. Yeah, say more, and then I have a question.
Because I feel like most of Arab culture is based on their history. So like, because most of like the Middle East is based off of tribes. So like Saudi Arabia is the Kingdom of Al Saud, which is the tribe that made their own country. So a lot of their culture is just based off their history. So if you were to like sort of try to integrate people in, you also have the problem where in gaining new people and like gaining what they know about certain stuff, you also lose parts of your history. It doesn't stay the same anymore.
Yeah.
Like that's why it's unique to them, and that's why it wouldn't be the same or nice if they try to integrate everyone into it.
Okay, so listen, so Americans, so this is what then would you guys say to Americans who are saying like, hey, we have this culture here in the United States, and I'm not even certain what it is. Sometimes people will ask me if I'm traveling, someone will say like, hey, what's your favorite American food? And I'm like, man, there's no food I can pick that isn't from somewhere else, right? Like, I don't even know what's American anymore, really. But there's this sense of wanting people to sort of, or demanding, as I said before, people sort of be part of this. And you're saying, hey, wait, and immigrants here in the U.S., people who come to the U.S. will often say, yeah, I want to be part of the U.S., I want to be part of this culture, but I often find that Americans won't let me. Like there's racism or discrimination, or there's some boundary somehow there's there. Maybe it's not that bad, but it's kind of like I can't always integrate, but I want to. And you're saying, we don't even really want to. We just sort of really appreciate this culture being what it is here. And like, okay, we'll we'll live side by side, but it's like, and they don't really want you to, and you're all living mostly in harmony, and it's like, it's okay. It's just different.
I feel like it's not only because we don't want to. Most of us, like the expats, are also coming from a very, very cultural country. Like I'm coming from Egypt, he's coming from India. It's like very cultural. So there is also no really reason to like go and change and all that.
To go and change.
Like,
Well, this,
I feel here in America.
no, listen, no, but this is like in Queens, right? Like, if you go to Queens, like, bro, what's your name? Dude, bro, what's your name? Omar? Wow, I was going to ask you, did you apply to volunteer? Yeah, all right, man. So he's from Queens, New York. Queens is one of the okay, so it's like I don't know how many million people, 1.5 million, something, I don't know. But it's not just, Queens isn't, everyone doesn't live together. You can walk down the street and there's 2 blocks where it's where all the Turks live, right? And then you go a couple more blocks and it's where all the Greeks are. And then over here it's where Mexicans are. And then the Guatemalans, and then Brazilians, and then Italians. And then it's all these separate micro communities. And people are all kind of pushing up against one another, but they're all living in their own communities.
Well, I feel like that's also sort of because America started off as like the first original like melting pot where people from every communities like across the world came to America. So they brought their own culture. So you didn't really have something like integration back then, I believe, because if you were to integrate, like you'd be looking back at the Puritans who came on the Mayflower, I think it was. Yeah. And
dude, hang on. You just demonstrated that you know more about U.S. history than half of the Americans in this classroom, okay? I just want to point that out.
Feels nice.
Am I right, bro? Am I right? Because you're sheepishly saying, like, I don't have any fucking idea, really. Okay. All right, go ahead.
Yeah, but at that time, no one really forced you to integrate into that sort of culture back then, like into white Protestant culture. So if you're trying to integrate now, what exactly are you supposed to integrate into? Because there's so many levels of American culture. There's nothing you can definitively point to as American.
Mm-hmm. Bro, do you have a question? We have a couple from the stream. Okay, go ahead, bro.
So, my question.
G-Dog has a question here.
As a fellow man who also grew up in a very diverse world, I wanted to ask, like, how do the countries, the diverse countries that you guys are from, manage the societal like hierarchy economically? Because if there's immigrants from all different parts of the world, there are bound to be immigrants from the richer side of the world and the poorer side of the world.
Yeah.
And those immigrants who come to your countries are bound to be much more affluent than those of like, some of the lesser fortunate, or even like the native population. It's a big problem in America as well, but I feel like one of the ways that we do it is by like merging everyone together, that eventually throughout generations it kind of like dies down. But if you guys are like so
separated,
I wouldn't say insistent, but like focused on maintaining that separation, how do you manage that kind of like hierarchy?
Okay, it's like integration and separation at the same time. Not in Singapore, by the way. You all are a little, although there's still the separation, right? It's still the communities. But go ahead, how do you do that?
With maintaining separation.
Like how, well, just the economic hierarchy, right? Because this guy here, do you experience discrimination in Kuwait? How much do you experience, actually? I'm not going to say do you. I know you do. How much do you experience?
Well, personally, to me, it's not that often, but like I've heard from other people that it's fairly common. Like, especially like if you're looking at like expats who come from America, like light-skinned people who are white, you usually get favorable treatment over like people who come from Asia, like Indians.
Yeah, like darker skinned Indians, like from the South, right?
Yeah.
People like you. Yeah. Bro.
So with the hierarchy, the social hierarchy that he was talking about, so I've seen many expats in Kuwait who have reached that high class in Kuwait.
Yeah.
They're surgeons, they're doctors, they're engineers, they have their own companies. But I do believe it's kind of harder for expats, since coming to Kuwait usually means you're coming from nothing. Why else would somebody leave his country, his family, other than to make a living for himself.
Yeah, you're either coming with something, which is why a lot of people coming here. Like for example, in the United States, so many Africans who come here with being highly skilled, highly talented Egyptians. The Americans with some of the highest rates of education, of college graduation, and so on, are Egyptians who come to the United States. The Egyptian American community is just phenomenally, educated and advanced, and same with Africans here.
Yeah, so that's why, because most expats come with nothing. So most Kuwaitis that you can see that are in the higher social hierarchy, it's due to them being generations of wealth. So it's not just one generation.
Okay. Do you have a question from the stream? Okay, so how do you think the push for DEI initiatives has impacted the development of relationships? When you guys, okay, let me ask you this, right? Especially how you. Like, there's this push here for all this diversity and equity, like Penn State, we're always putting these programs on to teach about diversity. It's like a diversity day.
Racial Harmony Day.
Racial Harmony Day. That's every day in the U.S., right? There's somebody doing something for racial harmony here, at a place like Penn State or whatever, and like how. And the question is like, how does that promote racial harmony? And like, hang on, I had a question. Like, what do the two of you think about that? All this diversity initiatives.
Well, I mean, you did mention like Race Harmony Day, where like you want to maintain cooperation so that people live together.
Yeah.
But the problem that I feel, especially with like initiatives like this, is you're considering people based on more than their merit. You're basing them off of their merit plus their culture or their race. And I think like if that plays an effect of like what you do or how you end up, like that's bound to create like some friction between like relationships. It's at that point where if you meet someone, maybe one of the things they could point to was, oh, you weren't as skilled as me, but you made it this far.
So maybe there's some way that it happens in Kuwait that actually might be better for us in the United States. Just kind of let people be in a certain, like separate a little bit, let people live in kind of separate communities, stop pushing the...
Yeah, exactly. If you were to consider people base them simply off their merits instead, would be like, I feel a better solution than pushing for something so hard.
Yeah.
Because if it gets so big to the point that it's affecting like what you accept people with, so like what kind of qualification somebody has, that's bound to lead to some
All
problem.
right, let me ask you this. Do you feel more welcomed in Kuwait or and you've only been here for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
But just from what you feel here, is there a difference between how you feel welcomed or embraced here versus Kuwait?
I would say I feel more welcomed here.
Yeah? How about you?
I feel more welcome there, not here.
More welcome there. What would you need to be more welcomed here?
يعني I feel welcomed in both places, but there for sure more. Just also maybe because I'm Arab as well. Like
Yeah, but
here,
you know,
it's
Look, you got Christopher, I heard that yani right there. How do you say
what?
yani?
يعني.
Yani?
يعني.
Yani. Look, you got Uggs on? Or wait, are those actual Uggs? Is that an Emirati version of Uggs?
No, I bought it from here.
Oh, you bought them here?
No,
Okay.
but I never bought this in my life. I came here and I bought it, but just for the cold, of course. I don't like how they look, by the way.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, no. Hey, but what would you need to be more like? Have you gone to any like? You know what sororities are here?
I was actually rushing.
You were rushing.
I was, and
Which
I got
one?
dropped.
You got dropped.
I did.
Who dropped you? Wait, call him out. Who was it that dropped you?
No, with all respect, it's fine. I'll be respectful here.
Yeah. Okay, don't call him out. Damn, wait, you just rushed now or last year? Because rush is happening right now, isn't it?
It finished. Like they all
It
bid day
finished?
happened. Yeah.
You didn't get a bid?
I actually got dropped on bid day.
Oh, damn, dog. Yo, what up?
Yeah.
Did you go to any sorority? Look, come on, she's got the Uggs. She
got
gets
the
everything. She has straight hair. Straight hair.
Straighten my hair.
Straighten her hair.
My
Straight
hair
hair
is curly.
we were, was it Nidhi? Nidhi and I were, the other day, there was like some rushing thing happening in one of the other classrooms. And Nidhi and I were walking by, and we were just like, oh my God, everyone looks exactly the same. All the sorority women.
I don't think I looked exactly like anyone,
No, but
honestly.
I wouldn't have any idea you were Arab. You straightened your hair for it. Everybody had
No,
straight
I straighten
hair.
my hair normally. Of course, I didn't straighten it for it.
Yeah, not for that. Okay. Damn. Have you ever gone to a sorority party?
No, why would I go to one if I'm not in one?
Oh, damn, dog. Listen, man. Wouldn't you want to go though at some point just to see what it's like?
Like,
Yeah, just see what
I
it
can
is.
imagine what it is, honestly.
No, you can't.
Like, we can all
really.
imagine what it is.
Matt from Middle East says, how is identity formed in your countries? Oh, this is a really good question, right? So, bro, I'm going to ask you, how is identity formed in Singapore? Like, how do you, this is going to be the last answer because we're going to have to do,
Yeah, I guess.
how you're just Singaporean. Do people have different interpretations of what that means?
Probably.
No, but tell us. You were a police officer too, right? For 2 years? Does this guy look like a cop, right? Okay, so what's it mean? Does it mean something different to everybody?
I would say the majority of the things probably similar. The food you like, the places you hang out at, the language you speak. But how these they were formed, I suppose, through common memory, common experience. Because since primary school, which is elementary school, people are just put into diverse classes. You have like everyone in your class. You have to learn to deal with like different people. So
Well, it's also pretty cool that like Singapore. How many people are there? 2.5 million.
probably I don't know the numbers.
It's like, what was it? Your one prime minister said it was the red dot, right?
yeah,
Remember
red
that?
dot on the
The
map.
red dot on the map, and like, it's kind of cool to live there. It's like being in Dubai. Like when I go, the first time I went into the airport in Dubai, I was like, holy sh! It's like everywhere I turned, there was somebody from some different culture and all the different.
But also because Dubai is a very known city for connecting flights.
Yeah, connecting flights.
That's
yeah.
also a reason.
Hey, I want to take Matt's second question here, though. Is there necessarily something specific that identifies people living there, or is it more like, I live in? Like, bro, like I live in Kuwait as opposed to I am something. You see the difference, right? Like I am American. I live in the U.S. But you guys, it sounds to me like at least the two of you like separate that somehow.
I feel like to make that difference, like to go from I live in to I am, there has to be like some sort of effort made by both communities, like the community that's like trying to integrate and the original community as well, so that you can like sort of adapt the people coming.
Oh, right. You have to adapt to people coming. Do you feel like that, bro? Do Kuwaitis ever feel just kind of annoyed at all of these foreigners here? That 70% of the population, like everywhere you turn, is foreigners, or?
No, I don't think a lot of Kuwaitis do feel that. It's because most of the foreigners who are in Kuwait are the ones who helped build Kuwait.
Dude, yeah, exactly. It's like in Qatar, man. Dude, Koreans. See, what my message for Korea has been, because I've done a number of talks in Korea about this, is that you have to start immigration into Korea more quickly. Because if you wait until there's a crisis, right? Now, Kuwait and Qatar and the Emirates and Saudi didn't wait till there was a crisis. It's just like once you had all the oil, man, you just want to build a country as fast as possible. So you have to get these immigrants to come and do the work, do the labor, right? Because you don't have large populations. But in Korea, the issue is if you wait till there's a crisis, then you get big waves of immigrants and it transforms Korean culture tremendously.
I feel like it's slowing down now, though, especially like in Kuwait, for example.
Yeah.
Like you don't get people coming to Kuwait as often. More often than not, they're leaving, because, I mean, especially from like what I've been told by my parents.
Yeah.
Like you have rules coming in, like something called Kuwaitization,
Kuwaitization?
which means at any employer, public or private, you've got to have at least something like 40% of your employees must be Kuwaiti,
Mm.
and you get hit with some sort of fine or some legal
Yeah.
repercussion. And more often than not, people just end up leaving because, especially now, they've been like enforcing the laws like a bit harsher. So we've heard of people, especially who got deported.
Got you, man. Got
Especially
you.
my mom's boss actually got deported like a month ago or something
Yeah.
because they thought he was gay or something, and you got.
Dude, what's this thing about gay people, bro? Like,
Just
You don't
not
have
in
to
the
answer
culture. It's not in the culture.
nah, I got you. No, it is in the culture. I know plenty of Kuwaitis and Emiratis who are gay. Trust me.
I know, but like
I got
on
you.
the front.
Yeah, they just hide it really well. Well, some don't hide it that well, but nonetheless, if you're gay, you can have a really weak gaydar and see some folks. Bro, the Kuwaitization.
Yeah, so the Kuwaitization happened, and it happened.
Wait, hang on one second. I know you're thinking. Wait, hang on, dude. You saw that in Bahrain, right? Yeah. All right.
So the laws about Kuwaitization happened due to the public sector not having a lot of Kuwaitis working in it because in comparison, Kuwaitis usually are paid more than expats. So it's in a businessman's perspective, it's much cheaper for him to employ expats.
Yeah.
It's much cheaper, and their work is known to be better than
Yeah, I
Kuwaitis.
got you. Well, this is why. Listen, man. This is why here in the United States we have. Historically speaking, in the U.S., it's business that has really shaped our immigration policy. When you need workers, you bring more workers in. You relax it, right? If we need workers, especially agricultural workers, then the La Migra is going to just allow more and more people to come in without documents, over the border. And when we don't need workers, when there's an economic crisis here, we kind of shut the valves off a little bit. I mean, that's kind of true all around the world. So, hey, is there another question, by the way? Grandpa's place from the street. What meal do you think of when you think of home? Oh, damn, Grandpa, that's awesome. What meal do you think of? Wait, what's that like?
I mean, it's not an Egyptian meal, but since I've been in Dubai, I don't know if it's actually from there.
Do the
but,
Emirates they don't have any dish that's uniquely
No,
Emirati.
they do.
Emirati?
Yes, they
It's
do.
different from Saudis and
It's, what is
Kuwaitis?
it called? Huh? Yeah, some stuff.
Wait, which one?
The Emirates,
It's
though.
I don't.
Okay, what's a
But
meal?
mine is Mendi. I love Mendi.
What is it?
Mendi.
Mendi?
Yeah.
What
But where is it originally from?
Inspired by Indian cuisine, at least.
Actually, oh.
I mean, a lot of the Middle East is because you had like the spice
I mean,
trade from India to
Yeah,
Middle East, so there's a lot of Indian influence for sure.
yeah. Bro, how about you? When you think of a dish, like
Well, I think of a dish in China
like a
actually.
home, a dish that
In China.
reminds you of-
like 煎饼果子
Oh, so
It's
so
like
for you it goes back to China.
China. But if
But
you
for your how about for your brother?
yeah, if you like, interestingly, his favorite dish is a Malay dish, and it's not even a Chinese dish. It's like a Malay dish
Yeah.
in Singapore.
Huh. Are there any uniquely Kuwaiti this is the final question. Are there any uniquely Kuwaiti dishes?
Yeah, there is.
I mean, but that everyone recognizes as a Kuwaiti dish, not that Kuwaitis have claimed like hummus or something,
I think there is.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think.
All right, man. Dude. Listen, thanks. Wait, hang on. Thanks, you all. Yeah. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's such a really interesting conversation. See, you could have added some stuff to that, but it's better.